It's interesting. I don't think that I actually like it more than the 28 day.
You like that one better?
When you age things, there's peaks and crescendos and valleys, right?
It hits
and
its plateau.
It changes flavor over time.
Yeah.
And I think that this is just one of the cycles where like the sour notes are kind of becoming prominent. I'm interested to see what will happen with the
180.
I think it's going to be completely different.
We are in downtown Manhattan. We are at Delmonico's restaurant. 3 months ago, we came and tried a 90-day dry-aged steak. I didn't really like it very much, to be honest with you. I thought it was a bit sour tasting. We are here to try a 180-day dry-aged steak. They've aged it that long because that's how many years they've been in business. So this is sort of a celebration of the restaurant. Let's see what happens after another 3 months. Has it changed it? We're going to find out, and I'm going to let you know all about it. So in the last video, if you saw the room, you saw that I was commenting on how clean it was. And what I meant by that was that it had a very subtle flavor. It wasn't, some rooms you walk in, it just knocks you right over the head, that funky, dry aged smell, the smell of aging beef. But the room here was very clean, and you could see there wasn't a lot of buildup of bacteria on the outside. That's a really fascinating thing about aging beef. It goes through these peaks and valleys of flavor, of sourness, of sweetness, of profundity, of blue cheesiness, of steeliness, of all of these like flavor influences, but they don't all come around at once. That's the beauty of aging. It's very much like wine. I mean, there are times when you should drink a bottle of wine. There's times when it's not ready to drink. There's times when it's too late. And I think we're finding the same thing through these like processes of aging beef for a long time. This is the 180-day dry-age USDA prime rib steak of beef. This is an enormous piece of meat. I don't know what it weighs, but it's got to be at least 2 pounds. Wow, right off the bat, those pungent notes, those aromatics, those things that I smelt when I walked into that aging room 3 months ago are completely apparent, and just the aroma, and right in the middle of it, so I have high hopes that this is going to be profoundly aged. Absolutely spectacular. I mean, I'm sort of a little gobsmacked by it. It's one of the beefiest tasting pieces of meat I've ever eaten, and I don't really expect that. Once you get over 90 days, I kind of find that those flavors are really different. Now I'm going to get into my favorite part, generally the spinalis. Did you see that? Like, that was like, you could just basically pull it off. I mean, I did use a knife. It's got the tensile strength of like a fillet or something. It's really tender. It hasn't lost the moisture that I would normally associate with a long aging. Wow. It's got the flavor of Parmesan. It's really interesting. You know, normally you get those blue cheesy notes in dry aging, but it's a saltiness to it. It's not as gamey, it's not as abrupt, but it still has this really sort of strong residual flavor after you've eaten it. Let's try the outside caps, which definitely are tougher to cut through. And in my experience, you know, they're not as tender, which is the reason they're sort of used for other things. Wow, that's the most intense thing yet. Because of course, the outside cap is what was exposed to the dry age room. So that really has like the intense blue cheese flavor, much more than the inside. Although that has penetrated all the way through. But I have to say, there's nothing like the interior of this steak. It has like such a great like texture. It's so supple. It's almost like, I wouldn't say chicken breast because there is some bite to it, but it's got a real tenderness that you don't really associate with rib steaks usually. So what's the takeaway here? Well, in all the years I've been eating at Delmonico's, this is the best steak I've ever had here, and that's saying a lot. I love this restaurant. I eat here all the time. It's interesting how I experienced this sort of lull point where the 90-day really wasn't what I liked, but then when you just let it sit in there for another 3 months and it just gets all of these really positive traits and kind of loses the ones that I didn't like. So that's kind of what separates the art and the science of dry aging. It's like you can set up all of these parameters, humidity, ventilation, heat, light, all of those things. You take care of those. But then there's the unexpected component and you just don't know what's going to happen because, you know, this is nature taking its course, right? You're controlling it in some way, but you don't really have control over what's happening inside the meat to that degree. And obviously, it's just about trying and learning and tasting. And, you know, for my money, this is worth the money. Absolutely spectacular piece of meat. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to sit here and polish off the rest of these steaks, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Meat Show.